I can't answer that in the affirmative because I'm not aware of the executive order to do that. I'd love to have I'd love to have it so I can have the information. But let me just share with you, as an individual who's worn the uniform of our country, and as the governor of Texas, I'm also the commander-in-chief of well over 20,000 National Guard troops that have been deployed multiple times in this war against terrorism. And God bless them, we got the finest military that this world has ever seen. And we need to do everything that we can to make sure that they are supported fully by the federal government and not ever put our military budget on the cutting the table, if you will, for political expediency, but to support them. Our question should not be how much can we cut or save from that military budget, but what is the cost of freedom, and how much do we need to spend to make sure that we are free from those countries that are going to be oppressive to American interests, but also how much it costs us to secure our border with Mexico. That's what we need to be focused on in this country. Clint, will you make sure that you get the copy of what she has, please, sir? Dave, thank you. Yes, sir, in the back. Sorry.
First of all, I want to say how much I appreciate the fact that you never said that as a politician that you create jobs, but create an environment.
Yes, sir.
But I just want to change gears and ask about your initial plan for Social Security and if that plan would adapt an opt-out option.
Yes, sir. The question he asked is my position on Social Security. First, let me make this statement that if you're on Social Security, or if you're approaching the age of being on Social Security, you planned your retirement with those payments, that you have nothing to worry about. We have made a solemn pledge to those individuals in this country, and that Social Security program that they paid into will be there for them. Now, with that said, the young people in this country between 26 and 35-year-old or just starting out in the workforce, they know for a fact that if you pay money into that program today with no changes, it won't be there when you get ready to retire. And for us, we need to have a very straight-up conversation with this country, talk about what are the options that we have. Is it staggering up the age of which you become eligible? Is it opening it up as we did back in the 1980s so that states can withdraw state employees or state retirees and have that as an option out there? We did that in 3 counties in Texas in the early 80s, and those people truly are enjoying substantially better benefits. Do we have private accounts for the individuals in this country? Allow people that want to leave their retirement dollars that they've contributed in, and the federal government run that. Let that be their choice and their call. Do we means test? All of that should be on the table, but don't ever let anyone, whether it's on our side or the other side, try to scare our seniors by using Social Security as a wedge issue. We know that system needs to have transformation. Those that are on it, it will be there. Those that are approaching it, it will be there for them. But we as a country need to be very honest and say, we're going to transform that system so that the young people that are going into the workforce know that retirement will be there for them.
What areas of the job industry are areas that you increase in Texas, and what areas do you think you'd increase or expand here in the nation?
His question was, which areas did you really see job growth in the state of Texas during that decade? A lot of people automatically say, well, it's the oil and gas industry. And actually, the oil and gas industry only had a relatively small percentage increase. The area where we saw really robust and big growth was in biomedical services and the technology arena, and part of that was because we created this environment in the state where job creators knew that they could come and not be overburdened by the tax structure, the regulatory climate, and then obviously one of the reasons that the medical profession, if you will, including biomedical, was because of the tort reform that was passed in 2003. And we really put a a damper, if you will, on the frivolous lawsuits. As a matter of fact, we got over 20,000 more physicians practicing medicine in Texas today, and a great deal of that credit goes because we protected them from the frivolous lawsuits that have been rampant in the state of Texas. So that growth has been in a lot of different areas, but biomedical sciences and the technology side is where we've seen really great growth. 95% of all the jobs created in Texas were above minimum wage. And I think that's a really important point to make, is if you want to create jobs, government can either be an impediment to it, or government can remove barriers like overtaxation, overregulation. And at that particular point in time, job creators will respond to that. Americans have lost confidence that Washington, D.C. understands what it takes to create private sector jobs. And we need a President of the United States who understands it, respects it, and every day gets up in that White House, gets up and goes to that office, goes across this country, and says to the small businessmen and women, we're going to continue to release you from overtaxation and overregulation so that you can be the catalyst of the future of America and create the jobs that in turn will create the wealth. That has worked in Texas. I will assure you it'll work all across this country. Yes, sir.
Well, first of all, Governor, I'd like to thank you for being here, and thank you for your kind words for our local Senator, Dave Johnson. My question, I want to deal with something you said specifically. And you said the pundits don't elect the president, the people in Iowa do. This is a very fractious caucus season. Right now, the top candidates have maybe 20%. When we as Iowans are thinking about who we should support, at least some of us think about what the pundits say, because I think most people here would agree the ultimate goal is beating Obama.
Correct.
Beating Obama next year. So we think about pundits and we think about electability. Now, specifically, some pundits have been very hard on you. I know Joe Scarborough, who is a former Republican congressman, referred you sort of derogatively as the "I shot a coyote in the face" candidate. When people are saying things like that, how do you overcome that and get people on your side so us as Iowans and caucus goers can feel like you are going to have your whole party's support going into the general election?
I think America's looking for a president that will look them right in the eye and tell them the truth. I think they want a president who has the record of job creation. I think they want somebody that's not about rhetoric, but that's about record. And I think they want somebody that will draw a bright line between themselves and Barack Obama. I can do that. There will be a bright line drawn between a president that has lost 2.5 million jobs while he has been at the White House, and we've created 1 million jobs in the state of Texas. That's what Americans care about. They are interested not in what some pundit says or the joke of the day that they try to get a laugh at a debate or on a television station. They are interested in a serious candidate who will get America working again. And we have the record of that. We have the commitment of that. And I will suggest to you, Americans understand that government doesn't create jobs. We have built a huge debt in this country because government thinks they're smarter than the people out here in the rest of the country. And I think on the 6th of November of 2012, we're going to send a message to Washington, D.C. that the people of this country know best, and we're taking our country back. Last question. Yes, sir. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I can't see, ma'am. It's you. Yes, ma'am. Let me give you the straight up. Our country has a mess on its hands because the federal government has failed to secure the border with Mexico. And states have to deal with the aftermath of that. We don't have the opportunity or the luxury to stand on the sideline. We have to make decisions on how to deal with these individuals. And until we get a president that is committed to securing that border, and I've had to deal with it for the last 10 years, I understand what we're facing and how to secure the border with the security, the strategic fencing, with the boots on the ground, with the aviation assets and other technology to shut that border down. Nobody's got a stronger record on immigration than myself. Whether it's passing voter ID, or whether it's pushing for sanctuary cities, or whether it's dealing with the other issues of immigration of which we've done in the state. But when it came to that issue of which you ask about, states are forced to deal with those individuals. We have to give health care. We have to give education. That is required by the federal government. They failed on securing the border, and then they dumped it on the states. The states had this decision to make. My home state. Are we going to kick these people to the side of the road and let them become tax wasters because they're going to have to use the government programs that are going to be there because they're unskilled? Or are we going to give them the opportunity to go to an institution of higher learning, pay full in-state tuition, which we do, and require them to be pursuing citizenship? That's what the people of the state of Texas decided to do in 2001. And the issue was really driven by economics because of the federal government's, again, failure to secure that border and us having to deal with it. Are we going to create a class of tax wasters? Are we going to create taxpayers? Texans chose the latter. Every state has the freedom to make that decision. It's not a federal issue. I would never want it to be a federal issue. What I want to do is be the President of the United States that secures that border where future governors don't have to mess with that particular issue. Thank you all for coming out today.